Hello to the TA who is grading this. I know you probably have a bunch of these to sit through, so tried to make this one a little more exciting for you. Um, got some accessibility features here. If you see one of these things pop up, that means it's one of the slides that's important for the rubric, so I tried to mark the sections so that you can have a little easier time figuring that out. Alright, so without further ado, this is the trouble with crowdsourcing and its impact on our ability to solve problems. I'm your host, Alan Benjamin, and this presentation is in opposition to the idea that crowdsourcing information provides the power to solve problems that we were not capable of in the past. So let's get into it. So we'll be talking about what is crowdsourcing, what the quality and accuracy of crowdsourced data is, going over the echo chamber effect, bias and motivations of contributors, and the limitations of crowdsourcing for problem solving. Alright, so what is crowdsourcing? Crowdsourcing is the practice of obtaining information or input into a task or project by enlisting the services of a large number of people, either paid or unpaid, and typically this takes place over the internet. I have a couple of examples of crowdsourcing: Wikipedia, obviously, also citizen science projects. Those are science projects that you can find online that various different groups and organizations have put up and are looking for volunteer help with that. And then crowdfunding, another pretty obvious example of crowdsourcing where companies or startups try to get funding from just anyone who's interested in supporting them. Use crowdsourcing for that. Okay, so in terms of quality and accuracy of crowdsourced data, I mean, crowdsourcing has a few benefits, like you get lots of data, it's easy and cheap, but it also comes with some pretty big costs. So we went over this in week 2. You can see here we got arm span versus height. This is some crowdsourced data from some kind of younger kids, I guess. And you can see two groups here. They explained in the video that this group was the group that followed the instructions, and this one is the group that didn't really follow the instructions. So obviously the data is pretty bad. You can see a bunch of other patterns in here too. So yeah, you don't necessarily get very good data. It's maybe not super accurate and usually pretty unreliable in terms of quality. Alright, the echo chamber effect is another thing you have to watch out for with crowdsourcing, and another problem and reason that it's kind of limited in its problem solving power. And what this is another thing we went over. This is in week 4. Looked at this video about the what's called circular reporting. So maybe one news source reports on something, and then this news source uses that as its source, but maybe this didn't have an original source. But now, since this has a source, well, this one comes up and cites this one, which then this one, oh, we need a source. Let's cite this one. Oh, now we have a circular dependency. Kind of interesting, right? So yeah, the echo chamber effect is where popular or trendy ideas spread quickly and easily, but the ideas that are a little more complicated, that maybe are actually better models, they take a little longer to understand, and so people are more ready to go for these ones than they are for these ones. So yeah, that's another problem with crowdsourcing, is you have a lot of people who probably aren't spending a ton of time that you're getting data from, and yeah, you're gonna have problems with that. So next thing is the bias and motivations of your contributors. So a lot of big crowdsourcing applications, you'll have people that are working adversarially. Maybe they have their own some sort of agenda that they're trying to push, and if they have enough resources, they'll be able to skew the results in their favor. One big example of this currently is fake news. Unfortunately, this is just getting more and more easy, more and more prevalent on the internet, with the advancements in large language model technology and deepfakes, and these large language models like ChatGPT, or just in general AIs that generate text, are making it really easy for basically anyone to develop articles or journalism or whatever that are pretty convincing, but AI models have no commitment to the truth. This is actually a quote from a Guardian article that I found. It's pretty interesting about large language models and fake news. And yeah, so it's pretty easy for these sorts of adversarial groups to push their ideas and really have a big effect on these crowdsourcing um, data collection methods. So the results of your crowdsourcing are going to depend on factors that you can't really control. So that's another big problem of crowdsourcing. So based on all these issues, you can see the limitations that crowdsourcing has, or it has some pretty big limitations. So it doesn't have a ton of problem-solving power. Um, Another problem is that people with access to technology are the ones that are going to be able to participate in crowdsourcing, so you're not going to have any input from people who don't have access to technology. Another thing is that a lot of problems you just can't use crowdsourcing because they're too complicated, they take too much specialized expertise or resources. And so even though crowdsourcing is easy and cheap, you'll end up having to deal with some pretty messy data, and they can end up causing a lot more issues than they solve in a lot of cases. So in conclusion, crowdsourced data is messy, it's unreliable, you got the echo chamber effect, you got biased contributors you have to deal with, and so it's pretty limited in its problem solving power. So yeah, it's not hard to make an argument in opposition of crowdsourcing's problem-solving power. All right, references. We got the week 2, week 4, and then that Guardian article about large language models. And yeah, thanks again for grading this.